the most prudent, reasonable, sensible thing that all of us should want is for the Fed to do its damn job and keep the value of that medium of exchange constant. Welcome back, friends, fans, and of course, foes of Dad Saves America. I thought I'd take this Friday to dig back into the comments on some of our past videos and try to do my best to answer some of your concerns and criticisms. But without further ado, let's jump right in, shall we? On a prior video about modern monetary theory, the chigger bug. Oh, I've actually got some chigger bites on my ankles right now, so you're triggering me, chigger bug, writes this. I'm so tired of seemingly very intelligent people completely missing the point of Stephanie Kelton's theories. I mean, really, why strawman so hard as to say MMT thinks government spending can be infinite without consequences? You know, I know, and anyone with moderate intelligence knows that this is not what MMT says. Please, dear God Almighty, just watch the effing documentary. You'll either be convinced or you won't be, but at least you won't sound like an a-hole next time you try to summarize MMT. Oh, the thing is, you're mouthing off, but it's not an unfair criticism. I didn't dive into the complexities of modern monetary theory in full, and to the extent I said it could be without consequences, you got me. That's not entirely true. Modern monetary theory does have a sense that there are consequences to just printing all the money in the world, specifically inflation. Let me try to address this, although what I can't do in an already extended video is break down all of the details of modern monetary theory versus monetarism versus, Austrian theory and et cetera, et cetera. What I want to do instead is touch on some of the points you're raising and try to lay a foundation here that I think has been completely lost in our modern discourse about money and macro. My understanding of modern monetary theory is that, number one, a government that issues its own currency can essentially never go bankrupt because it can simply print the money it needs to pay its debts. That's treated in modern monetary theory like some kind of magical aha, like, well, the Fed can just print the money that we need to pay off the debt. We don't need to run a deficit. The Fed can just print the money. I don't know why this is treated like some big special insight. Of course the Fed can just print dollars and hand them to the Treasury and say, okay, you can wipe out your debt. That's not interesting. That's always been true so long as we've been off the gold standard and there was no one that could come in and try to take our gold if they're worried about their dollars not being worth anything. Since 1971, that's been true. But this is the reason why I say there's a sense in which the whole movement of MMT asserts that you can just print as much money as you want. If you do that, you will create inflation. Money printing, if it's in excess of the demand for the money, creates inflation. And that's the most basic problem with MMT. What MMT actually does is it attempts to collapse two entirely different things into one activity. It tries to take government, which is providing presumably some goods and services to its people, with the maintenance of this very important product we call money. And it tries to say, no, that can all be the same thing. Governments can print the money they need to buy goods and services and hire people, and then just watch to see if people get upset about how much inflation's happening, and then tax the money out of the system to bring inflation down. That is the actual claim that MMT tries to make. What comes along for the ride, and if you're being honest, you have to admit this, is fairly radically left fiscal policies, such as a guaranteed employment policy that the government will hire anyone who's unemployed and just print the money to pay them to put them to work on something. I don't know why they think that the government will come up with something good to do. We tried things like this with various stimulus bills and shovel-ready projects. For those of you that are old enough to remember this claim, government's not good at picking winners and losers. It's not good at deciding how to spend money. That's why everybody's pissed off all the time about the way government operates. There is a strong correlation between MMT and pretty big government social policy. Those two things don't have to be together. I don't think it's a coincidence that they are, and don't pretend that that's not true. But why not say, hey, look, these are all the same thing. The government issues money. The government does these other things. It's all the same thing. Let's just collapse it all together. Problem number one with this is that it's fundamentally undemocratic and completely opaque. So taxes, we get to see, we get to feel. When a government tries to fund itself with taxes, it has to tax us. We have to understand what the tax is. We see the taxes come out of our paycheck. That is transparent. That is indicating what we're being asked to give up from our work to fund this thing called government. And if it runs a deficit, that is an important, transparent description of the amount of resources the government has consumed beyond what we as a taxed public have paid for. Someone's got to pay for it. It is real. Those deficits aren't just paper. They're not just numbers on a ledger to be manipulated. They are a reflection of real resources that have been used up by the government. And we, the people, should know that. We should be able to keep track of that. We should understand what kind of burden our government and our politicians' choices are laying on our kids and our grandkids. That's what a government using taxes and deficits and debts as its accounting mechanism provides. If you say, no, that's all fake because they can print the money, so just let the government print the money. The reason why that quickly turns into hyperinflation and disasters is because all of that feedback loop is gone. Where did they get the money from? They just printed it. But that's not really even true, because money isn't anything but a medium of exchange. It is a kind of veil over top of the real activity of the economy. And this is maybe the most important thing that I hope I can provide to you, dear viewer. There is a lot of talk out there about the Fed, about money, about interest rates, about bubbles, and how everything's going to collapse, or everything's going great, or deficits don't matter. This macroeconomic jargon tends to mask very fundamental things that I think we all both understand and have been obscured profoundly by the failures of economic education in this country. What do I mean by that? What is the economy? I think about this in pretty simple terms, and I think they're useful. The economy is us. It's what we as the people are doing to try to improve our material lives. That is what the economy is. It has two components to it at the individual level. I want things and I need things. And I ultimately want better things over time. I need food, shelter, and occasionally medical care. But I want nice food. I want to go on vacation. I want to have a decent car. So I want goods and services so that I can live my life and actually live it comfortably and enjoy it as much as possible. That is the goal of economic activity, to satiate our wants and needs. So how do we do it? Because when you're born on this planet, you're born naked and afraid. We're born this naked, helpless, soft creature with nothing. We're born poor and desperate and hopeless and sad and crying for our mommies. The way we get stuff is by producing stuff. That's the producing side. And we all understand this. That's why we work. We work to earn the money so that we can buy the things we need. But even that's not really true exactly. The money fudges the facts of the matter. What we do when we work is we serve other people like us with the needs that we can fill for them. That's the medium of exchange part of money. I run an organization and create videos. I can't pay for my groceries with my videos, not directly. That would be a barter economy. I go down the street and I say, hey, how much video for this bag of groceries? The cashier will look at me like I have two heads, because you can't do it. How much video will buy a full bag of groceries? What if I add a couple steaks into the mix? Do I need to make sure the video is in really great 4K if I want to get some steaks? That's why we have money. We have money as this good that enables exchange between lots of different people. It's a common denominator in the process of fulfilling our wants and needs for each other as producers and workers and as consumers and users. They come together with a single good called money. It is the fundamental truth of all economic activity. It's the reason why when people say Christmas is good for the economy is wrong. Christmas is not good for the economy. Consumer spending uses up goods on the shelves. In order to have goods on the shelves, someone needs to produce the goods. The reason that an economy can grow is because we get better at producing more stuff. That is how economic growth happens. The mechanism mechanism for coordinating all the complexity I was talking about before, the complexity of a modern economy. The only way that works is if that common denominator that is money is stable in its value. Because what money ultimately is a promise. It's a form of trust. It's a way of saying, I am going to give you this for the work you did today, and you can trust that tomorrow it'll still be worth the number that's printed on its face. When that's true, everything works pretty well. We can coordinate. We can plan. All sorts of prices rely on this. All sorts of plans for the future rely on the stability of that promise called money. And so the maintenance of the stability of our money is its own crucially important task that has nothing directly to do with what the government should do and how much the government should spend. To conflate these two things and collapse them into one activity, to take the medium of exchange that sits on the side of every transaction, we all get paid in dollars, we all spend dollars to buy the stuff we want. To take that thing that touches every single thing we do and put its value at the whims of the US Congress and its desires to spend money to pay for its next election cycle is madness. It is to subject us all in every single choice we make to the whims of the political. This is why we shouldn't have a Fed at all. We should have private money. We should let money be a product like it has typically been throughout history. It's never been perfectly a product, but the classical gold standard worked really well. I am a big fan of it. That is where we should head back if we could, or something like it, if something like Bitcoin that could deliver a political free money. But we don't have that. We don't have the classical gold standard that kept Canada out of the Great Depression functionally. We don't have Bitcoin as a commonly used medium of exchange. What we have is the good old greenback. And so the most prudent, reasonable, sensible thing that all of us should want is for the Fed to do its damn job and keep the value of that medium of exchange constant so that when I get paid today, I can trust that my paycheck will be worth that same amount tomorrow. One more thing about this. Deflation can be awesome. What do I mean by that? There's one area where you feel this profoundly. That is consumer electronics. If you put $1,000 in your pocket to buy the next sort of medium range iPhone and decide, I am going to wait. I am going to wait until the next iPhone version comes out to spend my $1,000. What happens? Next year, that $1,000 buys you a better iPhone. In fact, if you wait 2 years, you can buy an even better iPhone for less than $1,000. The value of your savings went up for the iPhone. The value of that $1,000 in terms of iPhone went up. This has been true for most of consumer electronics, and the reason for that is improvements in productivity. Because of the nature of the technology, consumer electronics have gotten better, faster, cheaper, so much faster than the rate of inflation that they give us a preview of what it would feel like if we had truly stable money. If we had truly stable money, we wouldn't need to be forced to speculate with our savings in order to feel our wealth rise. Every person holding savings would benefit in real terms in purchasing power from the increased productivity of all of us. Every improvement that makes producing things cheaper, that enables us to have more and do more with less, would actually ultimately benefit all of us because it would increase the supply of goods relative to the supply of money in circulation. That means prices would go down. That is deflation. It's what we call productivity norm deflation or supply side deflation. And it would be great. Instead of feeling crunched, instead of feeling like you're running in place when you get a 5% raise because prices went up 5%, you could actually earn more and see your savings increase in their purchasing power year after year. The government that the MMT crowd wants to empower with essentially total control of every aspect of our lives through its control of our money has wrecked this for us by creating an education system that demands that I try to explain this to you all instead of learning it in school. That's the facts. Most people don't understand the world this way for one of two reasons. Either I'm a lunatic, and I know some of you think that's true, or they're crooked liars. I'm pretty sure it's the latter, although maybe you think this is the finger left from me. I hope this has been educational or at least thought-provoking. Have a great weekend.